There are games out there that I feel are more important than fun. These are games that haven't aged well and are actually uncomfortable to play, and yet hold a very unique place in the history of games. LSD Dream Emulator is just such a game. Developed and released in 1998 in Japan for the PlayStation, LSD is quite literally an interactive dream. It was based very roughly on a dream journal, which was actually released as a gorgeously illustrated book along with an amazing soundtrack called LSD and Remixes. The experience of playing LSD is really a baffling one. Much like a dream, things only vaguely make sense. You explore the world, see nonsensical things, and then move on to another portion. Touching objects will transport you to another part of the world, which you do until you die, trigger an event, or if the day ends. The only goal, if you can call it that, is to explore the world for 365 days, while at the same time filling up a giant grid that changes depending on how you interact with the game. The most compelling thing about LSD Dream Emulator is how endlessly cryptic it is. Like a dream, it arrives with little explanation and challenges you to pull meaning from it. Only after playing the game for a few hours did I realize that tiny things were changing from day to day, and that my actions in minor ways were changing the mental landscape of what I was walking through. After a while, the textures morphed from plain to psychedelic, and my constant suicide attempts turned the sky dark and overcast. From time to time, I would see recurring haunting figures, like the ominous man in a gray coat, or sumo wrestlers defending a tunnel of floating babies. These things, however, came as fast as they went, and gave little explanation to the world itself. There are some hurdles to playing LSD Dream Emulator. For one thing, it was only ever released in Japan, and in limited quantities. It was released on the Japanese PSN store a few years back, and although scans and rips of both the album and the journal can be found online, legal copies remain rare and elusive. The second hurdle is the sound. Every single footstep in the game is extremely loud and irritating, and there's no way to turn it down or disable it without also turning off the music. You just have to deal with it or stop playing. Despite these drawbacks, LSD Dream Emulator is an important game that's worth playing. It's lavishly experimental with a real soul of its own. It's full of tiny, unforgettable moments, and is proof positive of an axiom I firmly believe in. The only limit to what we can play is what we can dream.